Real estate investing can bring big reward and big risks. So know your risks. Welcome to the Real Estate Risk Report, the show for real-world insight on real estate investment risk. Now, here's your host, Lance Pederson.
Hey, this is Lance with Real Estate Risk Report. Today I have with me Dan Norville with Vivo. How you doing, Dan?
Good. Thanks, Lance. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time. So today I kind of wanted to dig into, I know for you, you've sort of been executing buying the kind of extended stay motels and those sorts of things that have kind of reached their, the end of their rope and basically converting those into workforce housing and multifamily. So why don't you share a little bit with us, kind of what you've been working on and your thoughts kind of on that particular strategy and we'll go from there and kind of dig into it.
Yeah, no, it's actually become the company's sole and primary focus are these hotel conversions. I consider us a building recycling company where, I like to surf and be friendly to the environment, and doing these adaptive reuse of these buildings is the most environmentally friendly construction you can do versus demolishing and building ground up with all of the mega apartments and Class A apartments you see around these major cities. It's horrible for the environment, number one. But number two, the return on cost really isn't there. It's an oversupply on the apartment side, and they're pricing out the middle class and the lower middle class that can't afford the brand new apartments. So our solution is converting not only extended stay hotels, but actual motels, 2-story exterior quarter motels, putting kitchens in them and converting them into workforce housing, quote unquote affordable housing, quote unquote, because we're not government, we're not light tech, we're not on that. We're still market rate, but the price, because they're 100% studios, becomes affordable de facto. It's $800, $750, $950, depending on the market, but an affordable price point that people can afford if they work at, as a bartender or in the new gig economy with Uber and, Grubhub and things of that nature. So we're really fitting a need, and we've looked at it. There's over 4 million people that are living at home that could afford our rents if that type of housing was available to them, but it's not. And so we're trying to cater to that among many others that are currently paying more than they can afford for housing.
Yeah. That makes a ton of sense. When you're out, I've had, several people kind of reach out and say, hey, I think, I'm going to do something similar to that. What is it about kind of you and your firm that has uniquely, positioned you guys to be able to actually execute, on that particular strategy? So maybe give a little bit of, sense of your roots and where you kind of came from that allows you to execute that with, and truly add value and kind of minimize the risk.
Yeah, no, it's certainly not for everyone. And we've taken our licks and learned the hard way, just like you need to do in any business, right? So we've been part of different development companies in the past. Adaptive reuse, I was doing a lot of adaptive reuse of old historic buildings in downtown LA back in the early 2010 through 2015 period. And we were converting those to residential, and it's not simple, right? You have to evaluate the mechanical, electrical, plumbing systems or put in 100% new systems in those old buildings. But in our specific strategy, where we have some competitive advantages, is my company was formed out of a hotel company. And on the hotel side, we've got that expertise to operate the hotels in the gap period while we're converting them and renovating them to make them multifamily. That's number one. Apartment guys trying to do this aren't going to understand the operations of a hotel and what you need to do there. They'll just shut it down, right? And then you have a pretty heavy burn rate on the property with no income. We're able to convert and go to weekly stay rentals that are pretty profitable. They don't need as much staff as a typical hotel, but they still keep the lights on. They keep some revenue and some income coming in while we're putting in the kitchens or doing the lease up. So that's number one, the hotel background. Number two is looking at it from a construction and development standpoint. Some of these old motels, right, they don't have the electrical service needed to go to residential kitchens, and some do. And so we've got a general contractor affiliate that is very well versed and is licensed in mechanical, electrical, and plumbing in-house. So when we go look at a property within one property tour, dig through the bones of that property and see if the size of the electrical service is adequate for the number of circuits we need for our kitchens, check out the plumbing runs, see if we can add the plumbing where needed for the kitchen sinks. Those are issues that, if you miss, you're going to have to bring in a whole new electrical service to the building if it's not adequate. So we check those boxes early and often on every project to make sure that we can put in our effectively like prefabricated kitchens we're coming up with a patented kitchen that we can drop into each one of these on a plug and play basis, that have a low electrical need. And then last is zoning, right? Zoning, I always say, is more of an art than a science. And we have a team of zoning experts that have been doing this 20 plus years, and they've been doing it in LA, primarily, dealing with like Santa Monica, Santa Barbara, Coastal Commission, really the toughest entitlements and zoning you can do in the US.
Right.
And so we go into markets like Tulsa, Oklahoma, or Phoenix, or wherever. It's a lower bar, but it's still difficult. But they speak the language. We don't look at any properties that don't have by right zoning underlying for multifamily. So these are hotels that already have an underlying zoning for multifamily, which limits our subset that we can look at, obviously, initially. But even with that, there's still a change of use required to go from a hotel to apartments. And that change of use can be a simple process, over the counter, 1 week, review, to a 2-year review and a public hearing, right? And that's where we have to gauge that, talk with the city and the municipality, and understand, we call them trolls, understand where the trolls are at the city that are going to chew with our plan, and what that looks like, and what are the headwinds, and are they surmountable or not? And can we deal with that risk?
Yeah. And you find, like, with in terms of all the current property owners that, your guys are going right at them. Are these guys putting these assets on market, or like, how are you sourcing them? Like, how does that conversation generally go? Like you said, you're narrowed because of the zoning sort of stuff, but do you basically light up, these are the properties we could go after, and you're like phoning the current owners, or how does that work?
It's a combination. Because of the hotel background, we know the hotel brokers, so we're seeing broker deals. But we also have lender relationships. All of the hotels that we purchased in the past cycle, in the past company, were all out of receivership or foreclosure. So we have relationships with the special servicers, the lenders that are foreclosing on these properties due to COVID and distress. And so we're buying direct from those lenders. But we've created a funnel approach. Out of 100 deals that we'll look at, we'll only close 3 to 8% of those deals because of the aforementioned factors. And we've got a systematized approach of quickly getting to the bottom of these. So when a broker deal comes across our desk, our analyst team can look at it quickly and say, this fits our general criteria, or it doesn't, and it goes to the bottom of the pile if it doesn't. And if it does, then we dig in, and there's a couple more steps that we have to pursue.
Got it. And then in terms of, once you guys make the conversion, then how's the property management being handled? Are you you're sort of all under the Vivo brand, like you're just doing all the property management as well? Or are you engaging third-party property managers?
We've got third-party property managers that understand the Vivo brand now. A large one, AMC, they have about 90,000 apartment units across the U.S., so an institutional quality manager. They're managing 2 of our projects, a third one to come on board here pretty soon. Mm-hmm. But they understand our lease-up strategy, our approach, our brand ethos, and what we're trying to drive here is some brand value with the Vivo brand, because number one, again, they environmentally friendly, but we're pursuing the triple bottom line. We have a social component where we're giving back to a social component within the communities. Community engagement for the tenants. We activate the spaces of the old hotel. The lobby becomes a clubhouse and game room where people can congregate and hang out. We've got a little coffee area. Yeah. We've got a co-working brand that we drop in as well. And so, that's the social aspect. And the charitable, the community give back angle that we're pursuing is we're donating 5% of our net profits back to support local homeless housing initiatives and veteran housing in those neighborhoods that we go into. So it's all part of building this brand and making it stickier for our tenants to want to be there, making it a nicer community for our employees and workers that are there. And we're aligning ourselves with property managers that understand that approach.
Yeah. And then, I mean, for you too, I mean, on the economic side, I mean, how does it compare to, from just coming out of the ground to what you're able to create in terms of like cost basis? Like what would it cost to build the same, you're repositioning it, but what would the same cost be if you came out of the ground? Are you like at 50% of replacement cost, or, what does that look? I'm assuming it's outstanding, but how does that kind of look?
Yeah. From a replacement cost standpoint, there's a big delta, right? And so we're buying these properties, especially now with the distressed pricing, we're starting to see we're anywhere from 30 to 60,000 a door that we're going in on these projects. Then our cost basis to convert is anywhere from 4,000 to 35,000 a unit to convert, depending on, again, how much electrical service, if we have to put in kitchens. It's already extended stay, like a Residence Inn that we're doing a couple of those. They already have kitchens. They're turnkey. They're 4,000 a unit for some cosmetic upgrades, apartment ties, the box. But then the other ones where we've got to put in kitchens and we've got to program all the common area spaces in a full service hotel, motel environment, those will get upwards. We've never been up to 35 yet. I think 25 is the most we've been. But, it could go that high if we had to do the electrical upgrades. So all in at that math, you're looking at, 30,000 plus 4,000 to be 34,000 a key. We haven't been quite there. We have one at 46,000 a unit all in, and because it had kitchens in it already, and we bought it cheap. That comparable cost of development would be about 125 to 150,000 a key.
Yeah. So it's with the whole COVID-19 thing, like you said, it's some of those assets have just could make it. So it's sort of a really great time to execute this particular strategy. Then, I mean, this is never a better time to get in at the right price on these sorts of assets.
Absolutely. I mean, the margins were there, honestly, Lance, before this. That's why we started this. Another advantage we had was first mover. We started this, last summer. So summer 2019, we did our first project, and the numbers were compelling pre-COVID. Yeah. And then we started looking at our second project and took that under contract at the end of 2019, a motel, a Ramada in Mesa, but on the light rail, and pricing, today would probably be cheaper, but there was still enough spread because on that one we'll be all in for 85,000 a unit, let's say. But, comps in the market are trading at 125 to 175 a door for comparable multifamily product. So we had the spread then. And the beautiful part too is that the apartment class has continued to perform through COVID. Yeah. And there's continued demand for apartments. Yes, there's been some vacancy uptick, and some delinquency and collections uptick, but not demonstrable like the other asset classes. So it's continuing to perform. Valuations are continuing to stay up there. So our cost basis is going down substantially on the hotels, while the market for our finished product is staying about where it was and where it should be.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, so it's really good now, but it was good before. So those are the kinds of strategies with some staying power. So what is the biggest sort of thing that, how do you get your ass handed to you in this particular strategy? Like what's the thing that even makes you, what makes you nervous? And especially if you're watching someone else try to do it, what are you thinking? Like, here's where they're going to get bit, or how do you lose in this game?
Yeah. There's two main factors. One, it's really simple. The trolls at the city that we haven't uncovered that all of a sudden rear their head after you close and decide they don't like your plan, and you got to endear them to your cause. But that's a tough one. But again, if we have underlying by right zoning for our use, it's just a matter of cost and time to get it right. And it could be more in that regard, but we're able to generally absorb those costs into our budget and know that we've got to have some cushion, right? And there's enough cushion in these deals to provide for it. The real big one is construction, right? I mean, people just don't understand the construction. They don't understand putting these kitchens in. And we're not the typical development company. I've worked for many of these. And it's the, 90, it's the rule, not the exception, that typical development process is you get into a project, You hire an architect and engineers, and you design the job to put in the kitchens, to put in the improvements, right? And you have the engineer design a Rolls Royce of electrical systems, because that's what they get paid off of, and they want to have a really nice system. And you get the architects that are also, get a fee based on the size of the job. So they're designing something beautiful and nice and, way over the top. And then you get these design drawings, and then you go out to get bids from third-party general contractors who also have an incentive to charge you a lot of money. And they see change orders in these plans. They don't tell you about them. And all of a sudden you sign your low bid contractor's contract, you move forward with the project, and then they say, oh, by the way, these drawings were missing X, Y, and Z, and we're going to have to charge you a change order, and your costs are going up 20%. You have no control over that, right? And so you're subject to this market. And if we're going into all these markets that we've never been in before, we would be incumbent on local architects, engineers, general contractors, and subcontractors that have no loyalty to us and are going to try and rake us over the coals. Our strategy, it's in-house. We can do everything soup to nuts. We have our architect, our engineers, electrical, all that. Even if they're not approved in that state, they'll work with a local group in that and go what design focus is. And where it always gets out of control is design. You don't have the construction team on site look at the existing conditions, laying back to the architects and the engineers saying, hey, you can't build it like that. You design that because of X, Y, and Z, or you're going way over the top. It doesn't need to be all that. Yep. You get into a ton of our teams are talking to each other, and they're saying, no, we don't need to add those circuits. We don't need to do all of that extra stuff. Here's why. And we keep, we're fully aligned in keeping the costs down on the construction from that perspective. We've never missed a budget yet.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. Those are the things that, it can kill you. Well, it's cool. Well, thanks for taking the time, learning more about the strategy and about what you guys are doing. And I appreciate it. You take care.
Thanks, Lance. Yeah, it was great.
Take care, man. Yep. Bye.